It's February 2nd here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with the U.S. response to the drone attack in Jordan. Washington has reportedly approved plans for a series of strikes on Iranian targets in Syria and Iraq in response to a drone attack that killed 3 U.S. troops. The strikes are expected to last for a number of days, with weather conditions to determine the timeline of the launch. South Korea will pour $7.5 billion in surplus health insurance premiums into the essential medical services sector. The medical reform aims to ensure quality healthcare even in remote areas and reduce the legal risks involved with medical accidents. Seoul Fashion Week is back to show off its 2024 fall and winter collection. Seoul is the first city to hold a fashion week this season ahead of New York, looking to attract attention from foreign markets with more money to spend. Washington has approved the plans for strikes against Iranian targets in Syria and Iraq. Officials say the strikes will take place over several days in retaliation for the deadly drone strike that killed 3 U.S. soldiers in Jordan. Lee Seung-ja has more.
In response to the deadly drone attack that killed 3 U.S. soldiers in Jordan on Sunday, Washington has approved plans for a series of strikes against Iranian targets in Syria and Iraq. According to CBS News, U.S. officials said these strikes will take place over a number of days, with weather conditions likely to dictate when they begin. Although the U.S. military can attack even in poor weather conditions, it believes that visibility is important to prevent accidentally attacking civilians near the target. In response to the timing of the attack, White House National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said he would not comment on specifics, saying that hinting at the timeline for strikes would be the worst thing he could do. However, he stressed that President Biden had made up his mind on retaliation plans against the deadly drone attack in Jordan, adding the strikes would be a multi-layered approach over a period of time. Washington recently confirmed that Iran-backed Islamic resistance in Iraq, an umbrella group of militias, was responsible for Sunday's attack. It also assessed that the drone used in the attack was manufactured in Iran. Lee Seung-ja, Arirang News.
U.S. President Joe Biden on Thursday issued an executive order targeting violent Israeli settlers in the West Bank, who he said undermine stability in the region. According to a report by Politico, the order will impose sanctions on several individuals accused of having participated in the violent acts. It specifically targets 4 Israeli individuals accused of directly perpetrating violence or intimidation in the West Bank. They are accused of initiating and leading a riot, setting buildings, fields, and vehicles on fire, assaulting civilians, and damaging property. The White House notified Israel of their plans ahead of the order. Now, major medical reforms will be on the way here in South Korea. That is, doubling down on the plan to increase medical personnel and provide quality healthcare even in remote areas. Our Kim Do-yeon reports.
In 10 years, the government says that South Korea could be short of 15,000 doctors. And to tackle this, President Yoon on Thursday confirmed that he will raise the medical school enrollment quota. While no specific number has been announced, this is something past presidencies failed to do so because of strong opposition from doctors, keeping the number at 3,058 for the past 16 years. President Yoon said it's one of the last chances to save the country's medical system as a whole, as he laid out his medical reform package on Thursday during the 8th livelihood policy discussion with citizens.
지금이 의료 개혁을 추진해 나갈 골든 타임입니다. 대다수 국민이 원하는 의료 개혁을 일부의 반대나 저항 때문에 후퇴한다면 국가의 본질적인 역할을 저버리는 것이나 다름없습니다.
Other areas for reform are strengthening access to quality healthcare for residents in rural areas, fixing the current malpractice laws, and adjusting compensation so essential and high-risk doctors are paid more fairly. For the issue of rural areas lacking in healthcare, President Yoon said it's key to balance regional growth and said it will attract doctors to work in rural areas with local advantages and better pay. In terms of malpractice laws, he says the current system limits doctors from practicing medicine solely based on their conscience.
의사는 경찰 조사로 어려움을 겪고 정작 피해자는 제대로 보상도 못 받는 이러한 모순된 일이 반복되고 있습니다.
At the discussion, patients, doctors, and first responders also chimed in with their experiences. One of the issues that caught people's attention was the lack of availability in emergency rooms, especially in rural areas, making an ambulance drive 100 kilometers with a patient in critical condition. Regarding this, President Yoon announced that more than $7.5 billion will be injected to address essential areas like this. Wrapping up the discussion, President Yoon also brought up the medical industry as a source to drive the economy.
우리 의료인들도 많은 의과학자와 또 의료 관련 사업가를 양산을 시켜야 되고 그렇게 해서 임상과 또 의과학과 또 관련 이런 산업이 균형 있게 발전해 나갈 수 있도록 해야 된다고 봅니다.
He showed his confidence that South Korea's level of expertise in both medicine and technology can make the country an industry leader. 김도현, Arirang News.
South Korea's battle against high inflation has been going on for quite some time now, and people here have discovered and turning to ways to help them to spend less. Our economics correspondent Lee Soo-jin has the story.
People in South Korea continue to grapple with high costs as inflation remains stubbornly high. Where does this leave people? They have to look for ways to spend less, such as when they're eating out. This is a noodle restaurant located in an alleyway. A bowl of noodles here is only 4,500 won, or around $3. This is especially impressive considering how the cost of eating out has jumped more than 6% for 2 straight years, the highest level seen in 30 years. The owner says she was able to keep prices low thanks to the support she gets from her regular customers.
There are even people that come every day, and it makes me happy to see familiar faces. I'm very grateful for them.
The restaurant has been designated as a fair price business, an honor that the Interior Ministry and local governments give to businesses that meet certain price and sanitation standards.
I come at least twice a week because it's a lot cheaper than other restaurants, but still good.
Businesses that receive this designation are provided with free essential items such as trash bags and even have cheaper utility bills. And starting February this year, the Interior Ministry is expanding benefits as it signed an agreement last Thursday with local credit card companies to provide 2,000 won discounts each time a customer spends more than 10,000 won at these businesses. Another area where people have to deal with high prices is when they do their grocery shopping.
You can also see how more people than ever are doing their grocery shopping at places where they don't have to deal with high food prices, like this wholesale market.
The price of strawberries, for instance, which jumped more than 150% in December, are only around 5,000 won here.
I come here more often than large supermarkets these days because you can get fresh products for cheaper.
People are also going to unmanned stores that sell eggs for cheaper as they can save on labor costs. Eggs here are priced as low as around 5,000 won for a carton of 15 eggs, which are more than 8,000 won at some large supermarkets. Even though we visited the store late in the morning, a lot of the eggs were already sold. With the Bank of Korea forecasting annual inflation to stabilize slowly, people are likely to continue turning to these affordable options. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
From New York to Paris and Milan to London. And now Seoul is looking to steal many hearts and eyes through the biannual Seoul Fashion Week over the next few days. We're joined by James Dykes to discuss. Welcome.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us. James, what purposes do fashion events like Seoul Fashion Week serve? I mean, how are they more than just, glamorous runways?
Of course. I guess the biggest thing is that it offers direction to the buyers and the retailers that are attending these shows, and it really shows them what they should be looking out for to buy for the season ahead. And I guess they do look glamorous. And I think that's what the outside world tends to think of Fashion Week. But it's a lot of work from the designers creating these collections. It can take up to months, as well as the PR teams that are arranging all the seating and working with all the celebrities to make sure that they get the press that they deserve for these events.
I'm sure. Then what makes Seoul Fashion Week different from the ones, let's say, over in New York, Milan, and Paris?
Of course. I guess the biggest thing, those cities are known for their big brands. So you have, your luxury brands like Gucci and Prada and Dior that are being shown in these kind of Fashion Week cities. But locally here in Korea, it's really an opportunity for these young designers to kind of show their brands to a local audience and kind of gain an audience they may not necessarily have locally here in Korea, as well as globally, with the designs, are being worn by K-pops and idol stars like New Jeans are the ambassadors for Seoul Fashion Week this year.
Definitely. Then what are some of the 2024 spring and summer or fall and winter trends that, stand out, or maybe some of our viewers may be interested in learning about?
Of course, I guess the biggest thing that Seoul Fashion Week and Korea in general is known for their streetwear. It's a big trend that we see every year from Fashion Week. But I do think this year we're starting to see a continuation of Koreans looking to the West. Last year in Korea, we saw a huge trend called old money style, which was popular here in the market as well as on social media. But I do think that this is going to continue in more of a preppy Americana style that we might see in the kind of on the streets in Seoul and kind of on Korean celebrities also.
So that old money look is here to stay for another year.
It is. It's kind of just developing to a little bit more preppy and a little bit more kind of thinking Ralph Lauren and kind of these kind of more Americana styling instead of like more old money rich.
James, I have to ask you then, who decides these trends? I mean, who decides what trends become trends or even, a thing?
Of course. I guess the biggest thing is Fashion Week really does set the agenda. So we see things on the runway, they're interpreted to kind of the local media and they're worn by celebrities, and you start seeing them on influencers, and it kind of has a trickle-down effect. And then once those become a trend, the designers are inspired by them, and then they start including them in their collections, and then they will you'll start seeing them in stores, and it trickles down from Fashion Week, which is why Fashion Week is so important.
Right, but James, I have to point out, not all fashion trends are easy to adopt and enjoy. Now, as a fashion expert yourself, what do you think will be a hit or a most enjoyed this year?
I think the biggest thing about fashion trends is that it is really hard for people to buy into them as a whole look. I think that not everyone can change their wardrobe every season, which is really not cost effective or possible for a lot of people. So I think the biggest thing is just to really start small, even if it's something like accessories or entering into these trends in a way that's on the less scary side of things. I think accessories are a great way to kind of enter a trend without kind of having to change your whole aesthetic and feeling comfortable to wear what you want. Like, not everyone has to embrace a trend.
Definitely. All right, James, thanks so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Farmers over in Europe continued protesting over concerns including rising costs and regulations related to environmental policies. The European Council, following a meeting in Brussels, announced it would come up with solutions. Our Park Ko-nu with the latest.
European farmers continued their protests on Thursday, blocking the center of Brussels near the European Parliament building where an EU summit took place. The farmers reportedly started fires, threw eggs at the Parliament building, and confronted police who responded with water cannons and tear gas.
We are here to protest and to bring to the attention of the European Commission the various problems faced by farmers, such as income and environmental obligations that increase day by day and affect farmers' income.
Farmers have been asking for solutions to rising costs, low income, cheap imports, and regulations associated with EU environmental policies. European leaders discussed support for Ukraine with additional aid of 50 billion euros and said they would come up with solutions for the farmers.
We listened to the main complaints and worries and concerns of the farmers, and we discussed some of the short-term measures we have already taken, for example, concerning fallow land, but also the mid- and long-term concept.
The EU offered to protect farmers from cheap Ukrainian imports and proposed a delay in the implementation of new ecological measures. And they said they would come up with a proposal at the Agricultural Council that is set to be held at the end of the month. In France, where farmers have been protesting for weeks, the government announced plans to gradually reduce subsidies on agricultural diesel and increasing aid along with controlling imports. The farmers halted their protest of road blockades accordingly, but said they would continue their demonstrations in a different way. 박건우, Arirang News.
The World Health Organization projects that the number of new cancer cases globally will soar 77% in less than 3 decades. The WHO's International Agency for Research on Cancer released its biannual report on Thursday, which said that over 35 million new cancer cases are predicted in 2050, from around 20 million newly diagnosed in 2022. It cited tobacco, alcohol, obesity, and air pollution as key factors in the predicted rise. Lung cancer was the most common form of cancer, accounting for 12.4% of the total new cases worldwide, followed by female breast cancer and colorectal cancer. Lung cancer was the leading cause of cancer deaths. Countries with a low Human Development Index, which measures a country's living standards, were to see the biggest proportional increase, as well as cancer mortality. The world's best young athletes wrapped up their 14-day Winter Games over in Gangneung on Thursday. Our Song Yoo-jin was at the grand closing ceremony where the young dreamers celebrated the last bit of winter spirit.
Goodbye, Gangwon 2024. The Gangwon 2024 Winter Youth Olympic Games came to a close on Thursday night. Though heavy snow warnings were issued in most parts of Gangwon province, the weather did little to dampen the festivities.
This is our 6th day here. We watched figure skating and took a look around the festival booths, like K-food tryouts and photo booths. I hope Korea hosts more international sports events like this in the future.
I hope the athletes enjoy this beautiful snowy day as they've just finished competing.
The closing ceremony started with a pre-show at the plaza outside the Gangneung Hockey Center. Unlike the opening ceremony, the event was open to everyone, so no need to buy a ticket. The 35-minute official ceremony began at 8 p.m. It featured a screening of highlights from the Games, the parade of the flags, and the extinguishing of the first-ever digital Olympic cauldron. Around 1,700 people attended the event, including International Olympic Committee President Thomas Bach, Gangwon 2024 Organizing Committee Chairman Choi Jong-gu, athletes, volunteers, and spectators. Team Korea also had its grand finale on Thursday, ending its Olympic run the same way it started, with gold. Gold medals were added in the figure skating team event and men's snowboard halfpipe. With this, Korea has won a total of 7 gold, 6 silver, and 4 bronze. So throughout the Games, we witnessed remarkable performances from 1,800 athletes representing 70 national Olympic committees across 15 disciplines in 7 sports. Now, with the closing ceremony, Gangwon 2024 has ended its 14-day journey. Song Yoo-jin, Arirang News, Gangneung.
Good morning. I'm Kim Si-young, and now we turn over to stories from around the world. We begin today with updates from the European Union, where member state leaders unanimously agreed to extend a new aid plan worth some $54 billion for Ukraine on Thursday. After weeks of delays due to resistance from Hungary, EU Chief Ursula von der Leyen said the decision meant Europe had become stronger. Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban agreed to go ahead with the Ukraine aid package at a meeting of the 27 EU leaders in Brussels on the same day. Orban had vetoed the Ukraine aid plan during the previous summit meeting in December. Von der Leyen and European Council President Charles Michel said the deal was a signal to the United States to push forward with an additional $61 billion in assistance for Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said he was grateful for the decision. Moving over to Peru, where Vladimiro Montesinos, the former intelligence chief for the country's ex-president Alberto Fujimori, was sentenced to 19 years and 8 months in prison on Wednesday for his involvement in the 1992 massacre of 6 farmers. 78-year-old Montesinos, who has been in prison since 2001, pleaded guilty to charges of homicide, murder, and forced disappearance on Monday. In 1992, 6 farmers were taken from their homes and executed by an undercover military group in the town of Pativilca after they were accused of being members of a rebel group, all under the knowledge of then-President Fujimori and Montesinos. The Public Prosecutor's Office requested 25-year sentences for Montesinos, Fujimori, and 20 other defendants. Fujimori, who was only released from prison in December after serving 16 years, had pleaded not guilty. Montesinos has been in prison since 2001 for numerous counts of corruption schemes and human rights violations. Now, 7-time Formula One world champion Lewis Hamilton has confirmed a shock move to leave Mercedes and join Ferrari for the 2025 season. Ferrari confirmed the signing of Hamilton on a multi-year deal on Thursday evening, replacing Carlos Sainz Jr. Hamilton activated a release clause in his current 2-year contract with Mercedes, which is due to expire at the end of 2025. The 39-year-old British race car driver won 6 world titles for Team Mercedes after joining in 2013. He's the most successful driver in F1 history, alongside Michael Schumacher. The guitar collection of British rock band Dire Straits' former frontman Mark Knopfler hit the auction house in London on Thursday, selling for over $11.2 million. Thursday's auction included over 120 guitars and amplifiers used by the 74-year-old rock star Knopfler in several performances of Dire Straits' biggest songs. The auction house Christie's confirmed that the collection set multiple records, including the 1959 Gibson Les Paul, which was used to record Money for Nothing, selling for some $900,000, which is a record for that guitar. Knopfler is donating 25% of total sales to 3 charities: the British Red Cross, Tusk, and Brave Hearts of the Northeast.
Good morning. Air quality in the country reached bad to very bad levels over the last couple of days. And even this morning, an ultra-fine dust advisory remains in place for many western parts of the country. So please keep a face mask on today, but air quality should improve as the day goes on. Right now, east of Gangwon-do and parts of the southern provinces and Jeju Island are being affected by wet clouds. Even Gyeongju was under a snow advisory earlier in the day. And do expect to see more snow in the east of Gangwon-do province with up to 3 centimeters in the forecast throughout the day, while Jeju Island will see rain of 5 to 20 millimeters. It is a colder start for southern provinces, and highs will go up similar to yesterday under cloudy skies in most parts. And Jeju will be rainy and windy today with a high of just 10 degrees Celsius. Wet conditions continue in southern regions and Jeju on Saturday, while the capital will have a brief taste of early spring this weekend, with Sunday marking Ipchun, the onset of spring in the seasonal calendar. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
We thank you for watching New Day at Arirang. We'll be back next week for a Monday's edition at the same time, 9 a.m. Korea time.